Welcome to the Cosmic Casino tutorial. I'm just going to be ridiculously blunt here. This is definitely one of the most hardest stages to do optimally, and most of the time, if you go off route, aka going bottom route throughout either Act 1 or Act 2, it can get really bad. Losing time in this stage is pretty costly because there's relatively no easy way to get back in route without going through a lot of hurdles. So staying top route in the majority of this level is highly recommended. So just so you know, I'll try to go over some general ways to ensure it. But yeah, but let's get started. So at the very start, you want to do a 4-tap spin dash and full jump on the end of the slope here. You should land on this flat just before the gap here. And then you want to do preferably like a medium jump so you're not airborne for too long, because you want to land on this flipper here, on the back end of the flipper, so you get shot against the wall here. You could full jump this if you prefer, just for insurance, but you will be airborne for a bit more frames, so you do lose a bit of time, but relatively you get the exact same result. And then you want to land on the, you want to jump immediately after you land on the flippers, just so you immediately shoot into it. And then once the block is pretty much parallel to you, you want to switch to left, and then you land on the block. So you want a quick landing on that block there, jump, hold left, and then you're on the block. And then once you're on the block, you want to switch to right, just so you can land on this yellow spring here. Preferably you want to hold right just a tad longer than you would normally would, because you have the block moving the opposite direction, and that can like shift your momentum, and it could be generally difficult to actually make this landing here, because if you jump too early, if you aren't doing a full jump, you can actually undershoot that yellow spring, which is really annoying. So something like that, but you could potentially fall down. But anyways, once you make that bounce there, you'll hit this yellow spring, and then you want to make top route here, but you can't reach it with this yellow spring bounce, so you want to use this bumper here. It takes some practice to like get the angle here, but relatively landing here is fine. Preferably you get an angle where you land over here. You completely lob over the first set. The reason why is because you have this block coming up from the bottom here, and if you take too long to spin dash, this can cut you off, and you generally do not want that. I mean, either option is fine, but if you do land here, you should try to perform a 6-tap spin dash as fast as you can, just before it comes up. And then you're on the way you go. So after that, you want a full jump, preferably not on the very edge of that flat there, because you could bonk off that wall on the top, like up the ceiling there. But if you do jump just slightly earlier, just briefly, just slightly earlier, then you could just make it through here just fine. And then once you're down here, you want to roll and just jump off like the end of that slope there, just to get a little bit of speed. So this is where things could go wrong if you aren't careful. So right below here is bumper hell, and you do not want to come down here. This is like the first major like time loss. How to get out of here? Pray you get off that bumper and go back to the flipper. That's genuinely like the best advice I can give. Just hope you get up there. But if you don't have that happen, then that's great. But what you want to happen instead, I mean, you could choose to take this flipper and perhaps get over there. But what you want to actually do instead is medium jump into this second block here, and then jump upwards. The maneuver here is pretty, I wouldn't say it's complex, but you do have to manage your speed here. If you just try to full jump this all the way, you'll never make it over. And if you just try to do a medium jump without slowing down, weird things can happen, including a death, which you generally do not want. But the main reason you want to make this landing and slowing down is because you'll bonk this wall and you'll lose some momentum here, opposed to just slowing down and then jumping over and keeping some momentum like so. So this is what you want. So you want to do next, after you get this, once you see a bit of that ceiling popping up on the right side, you want to jump and intentionally slow down just a bit and land on this yellow spring. If you jump too high or you have too much momentum, you could... Okay, I didn't hit it. But you could potentially hit that spike and clearly that loses a lot of time. Oh yeah, just like so. And for some reason, when you get hit by the spike, you lose control of Sonic, and you have to land on the yellow spring again just to get up here. So clearly that's a time loss. So you don't want that. So you want is to tap jump and immediately switch to left, so you land cleanly on the yellow spring here. Once you land here, there's 2 different ways you can do the next part, but I'll go over the easy part first. So once you land here, just spin dash over. Spin dash over, or just hold right to the left here. You do not want that. What you want to do for a safety measure is wait for this block to come all the way down, and then spin dash as soon as it hits the very peak of the, or I guess depths of the block movement there. So you can just do a spin dash over to the right there. This is a pretty annoying section, solely because if you spin dash too late, or you spin dash too early, you just literally don't go anywhere, and you have to wait out till it goes back up again, which is obviously a really annoying thing to happen. So yeah, so that's early and then that's late. So the timing has to be very specific. So once you get it right, if I can get it right, of course, you get sent over like this. And then you want to full jump on the tip of that flat of the ground there. You'll bypass a flipper, but there's a chance you hit this bumper here. What you want to do instead, if that happens, well, to ensure that doesn't happen, is to hold left after you bypass the flipper, so you slow down your speed and you go through the whole section without hitting the bumper. And then once you land, you want to roll down just for a bit of speed, and once you see the hole on the far right, you want to tap jump and hold up against the wall on the left, because there will be a ramp just coming down here. As long as you're rolling down it, you can gain a lot of speed off of this. And if you full jump while holding right, you can maintain all that speed into the end of the level. So the normal route would normally get you a 24, doing it that way. But there's a somewhat fast way to do this, with some different maneuver here. So going back to this section, there's something I have to talk about with the block here. So this block, the block on the right that you have to wait for, it's a screen-based cycle, so relatively, once you are close enough to the block, the movement starts for that object. What you may not know is that you can actually not activate it just yet, even when you're standing here. So when I look left and right, you can see the screen actually pans back and forth. So if the screen is all the way over here, you haven't triggered the block movement yet. But if you stand over here, looking the other way, you have triggered the block movement, which means now it's in a moving state where, you know, it can start opening up. But if you position yourself in such a way where you're still bouncing up without looking the other way yet, and then immediately turn around and spin dash over, you can get under it before it shoots down. So it avoids waiting the entire cycle for this block to come down. So it saves a decent amount of time. You can get a 23 and perhaps a 22 if you're fast enough throughout the whole level to get this. So just to back up a tiny bit, just so we're on the same page here in terms of how to do this. You tap jump, you hold left, and then what could happen is you bonk the spike on the right of the yellow spring, so you don't make it. What you could do is just maneuver Sonic a little to the right, and immediately switch back looking the other way, which can try to hopefully keep the screen from panning too far right, and you can still make it under. So this requires a lot of finessing, and preferably you do a 4-tap spin dash. That's like more or less the fastest you can probably do without overly risking bonking the ceiling. So I guess about the spin dash, you could bonk this accidentally and you can lose this cycle entirely. Or if your jump is entirely wrong, you could end up landing on the floor and losing all your momentum. You want to land pretty close to the block, but not too far in where you bonk the ceiling on the wall there. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. You can get stopped here, which is really annoying. But if you can make this jump on the yellow spring and keep the screen away and go, you can just run right under it. And the same thing still applies. At the very end, you just full jump. Because you're slightly slower, you don't have to worry about adjusting and avoiding anything. The same thing also applies. You roll here, jump, roll, jump off the slide, and then hold right. And that's Cosmic Casino 1. It's don't go bottom route. That's all I can say. But with some practice, you can make through that just fine. So Cosmic Casino 2. So this started the level. Once I find where Cosmic 2 start is, here we go. So at the very beginning, just spin dash and jump again, and then jump once you make the landing, just so you can position yourself on this red spring landing here pretty nicely. Land here and hold right. Keep holding right for the next red spring, and then once you're here, you want to do a 3 or 4 tap spin dash, and you should land on this first conveyor belt. Jump again, and then jump once more. Medium jumps to land here. And then you want to have a visual cue. You want to use the stars in the background as a visual cue here. So you see the background. There's like these white, like these bigger stars in the back here. You want to time your jump when Sonic is on the left side of this bigger star over here. I believe it's the 4th star just before you're coming up. So you see the first big star is on the left. 1, 2, 3, and then this 4th one coming up. You want to jump just before it, and you should land on this yellow spring. And you bonk on the wall, and you get through these bumpers like so. You cleanly just go right through it. If you jump too early or jump too late, well, jumping early, you get this. There's a time you could jump even earlier. You can jump and land on the yellow spring without even hitting the wall, which can cause this sequence to go differently. You can get shot the other way if you jump too late. You know, you want to make sure you jump at the right point. Jumping too late, you clearly don't make it. And if you try to get through it, YOLOing it, then it could just be really difficult to, because there's no setup involved doing it that way. So, yeah, so jump right here, right before the 4th star, and you land right here. And then you want to do a 2-tap spin dash, jump over this block. And this part's pretty tricky. You want to use this bumper to bounce you over. If you're trying to go really fast, it's going to be really complicated because there's a conveyor belt that's moving left while you're here. So you want a full jump, try to slightly slow down as fast as possible, and then full jump just so you have some leeway to adjust your speed and landing on this bumper. So you can land on the top left of it and hopefully get a bounce on the top here. So this takes a lot of practice, but I do advise for a full jump just so you have a lot of time to adjust your angle. And then once you get up here, you go up to this elevator, full jump over, or spin dash I mean, 2-tap over, and you're on this elevator here. So this elevator, this can go wrong for a lot of people if they're not careful. So you want to do here is you want to charge a spin dash once you're in this elevator, like so. But it's more to it than that than just stopping, because if you just try to slow down and spin dash, you could accidentally roll inside of here. For some reason, when you try to slow down here, sometimes you could still be in a walking animation. So you need to slow down, let Sonic just kind of sit there until he's completely stopped moving. Or the other option is just jumping. If you jump, he completely stops, but you can't jump too early or he'll just jump right out of it. Nor you can't jump too low or you just go right under the elevator, and that will lose you time. So you can choose to just stop and just wait much longer than normal, and then spin dash away, or jump once he's against this wall and make sure it is a medium jump or higher, and you should be fine. So once you're up here, charge a 6-tap spin dash, hold right, and jump in the middle of these rings here. If you jump too early, you don't reach this conveyor belt. If you jump too late, you land on these spikes here. So you want the landing I just got there. Let me go back here to the safe state. You want this landing here. If you jump too early, you fall, and this is a really bad fall. You would have to just kind of maneuver your way somewhere, play out the level, and yeah, this is a really bad route. Don't go down, please. And obviously, jumping too late, you can either make this jump timing more tighter, or you just completely jump where the spikes are. So middle of the rings, and then immediately medium jump out of it. So you land on this flat here. Then you want to do a 6-tap and jump on the edge of that platform there. So you barely make it over. 5-tap or lower is never going to make it, or if you do a 6 tap and you jump too early, then you just fall down. Thankfully, this is one of the spots where it's not too bad to mess up. If you go all the way to the left, there's a red spring right here to come back and try again. But yeah, it's a jump that's pretty tight. So after you make this landing, you want to medium jump over this platform, and then medium to high jump just so you land on these conveyor belts here. Preferably on the middle of it, because the left conveyor belt is moving to the left, so you do lose a little speed if you land right here. So intentionally, you do want to do a little higher jump than normal, so you land somewhere in the middle here. And if you full jump on the edge of that conveyor belt, you can land on this flat here. So this part's tricky too. If you jump too early, you can hit hit these layer spikes here. If you jump too late, you can just completely overshoot the platform or the edge on the left here, and you fall right into this slot machine. But if you jump in the very center of it, you can land on this flat here, and you can do a setup to make this drop really seamlessly. So once you're here, you keep holding right. Keep holding right until there's a lot of cues you can use. A cue that I personally use is I use the Sonic sprite of the pinball machine as a visual cue of how to adjust my landing here. Once I find the state. Okay, so you see Sonic's face here. Usually I'll try to like have Sonic completely under it, and that's roughly where this hole is. So once you're in that hole, you can just go right under, but you have to eventually start holding left so you don't accidentally land here. You want to keep dropping from here, because this is where the boss is. So you full jump, and it roughly, once you're at the end of this like yellow background, you want to start holding left, so you drop through here. And you make this landing here. If you're able to bonk on the wall just before you land, you could immediately just spin dash off of this, and if you do a 4-tap spin dash and then jump right after, you can land cleanly through this hole here. And you can get right into the boss fight. So this boss fight is probably the hardest fight in the whole game to do optimally. There's some RNG involved, and it's very difficult to get all 8 hits here. So basically, the overall design of this fight involves hitting Eggman while he's bouncing back and forth throughout the walls here. And depending on where you hit him, it's very dependent on the angle you hit him at. If I hit him just slightly at a different angle, he could be completely moving at a different direction, and that can skew your whole setup. But speaking of setup, there is somewhat of a setup, but like I said, the amount of differences that can happen to this fight solely because of your angle of how you hit him makes it more or less impossible to consistently hit him like every single time, like at the exact same point. And another problem is, I mentioned already that there's RNG involved. The only RNG part of this fight is the start of this fight. So you see, after he starts moving, he moves at a direction. He can move up left, up right, down left, down right at the start of this fight here. And if you hit him on the first frame he moves, he still has that influence from his decision he makes once he starts moving. So he'll always be at a slight angle that you wouldn't be able to tell unless you let him rock it without hitting him on the first hit. So it's just overall just a really hard boss to just do consistently, even if you know what you're doing. But there are methods around combating this fight. So what you want to do, stand on this flipper here. So you want to look at Sonic's sprite here. You want Sonic to be positioned exactly on this pixel here. If you look at the flipper, you see that there's a circle on the big part of the flipper. There's like a little circular icon there. And you see there's a gap on the top of that circle. And it's perfectly lined up to the white pixel of Sonic's shoe. So if you line it up where that white pixel of his shoe is directly under the gap of the circle, this is where you want to be. So this will allow you to hit him, and he gets sent directly under you. So he doesn't have any massive influence of like left or right, and you land directly on this platform here. after you get the hit and you bounce off of the bumper on the top, you want to start holding left, just so you don't screech off of this platform. And then the rest of this fight, before I even explain about the rest of the fight, the jump is a visual cue. I'm sorry, an audio cue. So if you jump too early, you clearly just go right through him because he doesn't have an active hitbox at the start. And if you jump too late, you can hit him too late and he gets sent to a different direction, or you get hit yourself. So this is me jumping late, or a decent spot right there. If you jump too late or too early, this could go really wrong. So using the music at the start of the fight is a good cue. So I'm gonna time how I jump this. 1, 2. So roughly there, that's where you want to jump. But right before the fight starts and you get hit, or you get the hit and you land here. So you want to do next, this is the part where I'm just going to say good luck, because this is where things can really be tricky, because it's going to be all dependent on how you hit him. So what you want to do, preferably, is full jump and try to land as directly under him as possible. If you land too far to his right, he'll be sent to the left, and that could skew like how he moves, vice versa the other direction. 1, 2. Screech, full jump, hit him on the very center, and after second hit, preferably you want to land back on a platform so you can just position yourself. What some runners may try to do to be cheeky is after hit 1, they would directly hit him after hit 2 and still try to hit him from the recoil of the bounce. The reason that's really bad is because after hit 3, he can immediately just bounce off the floor and he goes straight at you and you get hit. And now hit 4 is going to take a little longer because he went all the way back up. So I would highly recommend hit 1, land on the platform, hit 2, land on the platform, and hit 3 and 4, you try to get one after the other. Because after hit 4, the fight slightly changes. After hit 4, he starts homing in on you. So he stops completely and takes a bit for him to move, and he goes straight at you. So the main difficulty of this fight is making sure the first 4 hits is as fast as possible. As well as having him positioned where you get the next 4 hits of this 8-hit boss fight to go cleanly as well. So there's 2 ways to approach this final part of the fight. You can take the safe way. So like I said, he homes in on you after hit 4. So what you could do if you wanted to make this as seamless as possible, land on either the left or the right side of this arena, like where it's against this wall, and hold a spin dash. He'll continuously home in on you for all 4 of the remaining hits. And you get the kill here. That's the safe way to do it after the 4 hits. The 4 hits are easily the hardest part. But if you don't choose to do that, get hit 2 hopefully, 3, 4. And then hit 5, he's going to home in. And then you try to make him home in on you where you can hit him on his very top center. So you can keep juggling him from below. It's really difficult just to keep the momentum going, but that's essentially how you want to do it. 2, 3. Yeah, so little slight adjustments is going to like most likely make him hit a platform, which can make him rise up much earlier. So let's try that again. Hit 5, 6, and if he starts drifting elsewhere, you just have to track him down, and he comes down. I'll try to do it one more time. 1, 2. Another option here is to continuously try to use the bumper above you as a way to get down faster. So this is hit 3. He's getting sent more far right, so I need to get him fast before he gets sent to a weird angle. But since I hit this bumper here, I can immediately land on this platform here. Unfortunately, he had a really bad angle regardless, so it was hard to catch him, but it does help you land faster to get the next hit quicker. But using the aid of the bumper above you can also help as well. 2, 3, 4. So sometimes it still works out. All it matters is trying to adjust to where he's going. There's no way anyone can always get a very consistent setup. But if you can track him down and get the first 4 hits as fast as possible, there's a way to get the next 4 pretty nicely. So in this situation here, he's very far away on, like, horizontally. So I would have to wait for him to home in on me so I can apply pressure on him. 1, 2. Center. Come back center. 1, 2. And he's going to home in. I'm going to intentionally try to keep him on a certain direction. So on the final hit of this boss fight, it's actually extremely important where he's landing, or where he's landed, because there's a way to speed up the ending cutscene of this fight for you to hit the capsule much faster. So when you kill the boss here, I have a save state elsewhere here. So I have a couple of save states here. So when you kill Robotnik where he's very low into the ground, if you make him off screen very far away, and if you, well, in this instance, if you full jump after, once he starts moving up, where he normally flies up. So I'm going to let this play out. It takes him roughly 3 seconds to fly him up all the way up. And you see I hit the capsule in 102. But instead, I go up and full jump. And then make him go really far off my screen. And he will actually deload, and you save 2 to 3 seconds from that, which is really nice. And depending on his location, could change the setup or whether it's even possible at all. So here's another scenario. He's on the edge of this second platform here. If I do the jump strat again, he won't despawn because he's too high up. So killing him on this part of the area is not good. It relatively doesn't help you get the hit or get the deload. It just does not work very well. But there is, like, potentially different ways you can go about this. But in some cases, you wouldn't be able to get the deload. So here's another example. So he's on this platform again, but he's more against this wall here. And there's actually a way to deload the boss here. So I have 2 examples here. So I'm standing on this position, and you can clearly see him here. So if I stand here and I let him play out his cutscene, it doesn't deload him. I lose the 2 to 3 seconds, and I get a 106. But instead, I look the other way and pan the screen by making Sonic look left. It deloads him, and I get a 104 instead. So little things like that can also help a lot. It's one of those things where it just depends on his positioning. But I know that was a lot of quite the mouthful for this fight, especially since it doesn't seem like I made it very clear cut on like how to defeat this guy. But that's more or less kind of how this fight is. Very subtle angles can change it. It takes a lot of adjusting, and it's going to take a lot of practice to get a good rhythm going. So most of these bosses are never going to be perfect. So here's another situation where I could not deload him because of his overall positioning. 2, land again. 4, okay. So this is 5, 6. Preferably in this scenario, I would like to position myself after hit 6, so he can just home in on me and I can get 7 and 8th hit really nicely. So he got the kill on the very bottom of the screen, so I can do the setup to deload him. Preferably you want a sub-minute, like a 59, 58, that would be the most optimal you can go for, like in a regular run. But yeah, it's a really difficult fight. There's only so much you can do about it. It just takes a lot of practice. So I do hope a lot of this has helped, and hopefully there's ways you can figure out how to maneuver this better than potentially I could. But yeah, thanks for watching.